Hey YouTube, what's going on? Abyssal Wave here. Today I'm going to be going over all of the changes for Frost DKs in patch 7.2.5. Without further ado, let's get into it. The first change is the damage of all abilities has been increased by 3%. I see what they're doing there. They're kind of trying to make up for the immense nerfs that Frost DKs went into. Well, not immense nerfs, but, you know, a couple nerfs here and there. And, okay, 3% damage buff kind of makes up for it. A little bit, not too much, but it does help. And the next thing is Blast Radius now increases damage by 6% per trade, as opposed to the previous 10%. Made a video talking about this, and us Frost DKs are fucking pissed off about this. I'm mostly pissed off about it, not because, you know, oh my god, you nerfed the trade, what the fuck, man? We're not pissed off because it was just a nerf. We're pissed off because that's not how they should be reprioritizing legendaries, sorry, not legendaries, but relics. Don't take one relic just because it's so much stronger and say, okay, we have to nerf this a lot, because there are some relics for other classes that are insanely strong, and what you should do is not just nerf them completely. What you should do is kind of change up how that class plays in order for them to, you know, prioritize other relics. I think that would be a better solution to that. Just almost cutting it in half. It's minus 4% per rank. The max you can get is 42% as opposed to 70%. For someone like me who has triple Howling Blast relics, it hurts, man. It really does. Next change is Rime procs at half the rate of Obliterate now for Frost Scythe. So Frost Scythe now procs Rime at a 22.5% rate, and it also procs Thronebreaker at a 25% rate, I think it. No, at a 50% rate. I'm sorry, because Obliterate procs it at a 100% rate. Frost Scythe now pops it at a 50% rate. Now, again, I see why they're doing this. They're doing this to kind of play around with the Soul of the Death Lord being a thing for AoE fights. And you know what I mean by that is Frost Scythe might be used in AoE fights now because it gives you Rime, gives you Thronebreaker, and since you can get Gathering Storm anyway now with Soul of the Death Lord, maybe you'll run Soul of the Death Lord plus Frost Scythe in heavy AoE fights or cleave fights. Well, this does help a lot, and it is very interesting because I personally am a big fan of Frost Scythe. I love how it works where, you know, if you get a killing machine, you're guaranteed to do quadruple damage on top of the crit, but if you just spam it, eventually you'll get these insane crits. I really do like that, and the crits do more damage than Obliterate does. However, the base damage is very, very minor. Actually, I think the crits do the same damage as Obliterate. Please excuse me for that. I believe for me right now, Frost Scythe will do about 90k a hit, but Obliterate will do 360k, so I think it's exactly 1/4 of it, but if it crits, it does the same for one rune, and it does cleave in front of you. I really do like how they're trying to make this viable, but I don't know if they're doing it in the right way. This is something that they should have done a long time ago. It should have been proccing Rime, it should have been proccing Gathering, or it should have been proccing Thronebreaker. This is a little late to be seeing this change, but better late than never. The next change is the tier 19 was nerfed from 8 runic power to 6 on the 4-piece. I talked about this in a video as well. I didn't really care much for that nerf because we probably weren't running the 4-piece anyway. It's really only going to affect us until we get our 4-piece in Tomb of Sargeras, which should be within the first week of the Tomb coming out. You should, you know, be, or at least the first 2 weeks of Tomb. So yeah, you're going to take a couple second hit on your Breath of Sargeras uptime, but again, that's not terrible because you are getting a 3% damage buff. You are, however, you know, taking the hit with Howling Blast, but as long as you get Cold as Ice or something in there to replace it, you should be fine. You should come out on top. So again, not a huge change. It does hurt. It really does for about 2 to 3 weeks, but once you get that Tomb tier, if you're going to stay Frost, then you shouldn't even worry about it. And the last thing I kind of want to state about this kind of stuff is it looks like for Tomb of Sargeras that Breath of Sargeras is going to stay above the machine gun build. Now this kind of looks obvious with the patch notes and everything, and how, you know, you want to spend as much runic power as possible, you want to spend as many runes as possible and everything with the new tier. So obviously Breath of Sargeras does that. The machine gun build does not, but I just wanted to state my opinion on that. It looks like we have like a 99.9% chance of the fucking Sargeras build staying top dog. So, you know, if you were kind of getting bored of it, you might want to go over to Unholy, because that is kind of changing up. Frost is really not changing up for Tomb of Sargeras. You're just going to have longer pillars, and you're just going to be doing more damage in your breath phases with a shorter breath. The next thing is 2 new legendaries. So the first one is Soul the Deathlord. Now, I talked about these 2 legendaries before, but I kind of wanted to state my opinion in this video, and that is, for Soul the Deathlord, I don't like what tier it gives us. I don't like the talent that it gives us. I do like Gathering Storm, but up until now, the other 2 weren't really crazy good. Frostlight now being able to proc Thronebreaker and Rhyme does make it a lot better, and does kind of give us a little bit more leeway with Soul being a viable legendary, but there are other legendaries that are just stronger, so it just doesn't look like it's going to be able to compete, simply because you lose out on secondary stats, which is huge, and it doesn't even give you an OP talent. If it gave us Hungry and Rune Weapon or Avalanche, so we could have those with the extended pillar uptime now, Avalanche would be crazy good in AoE fights. And if it gave us Freezing Fog or Horn of Winter, it would also be pretty fucking insane. But it doesn't give us any of that, so it's just underwhelming for me. And you guys tell me your opinions down in the comments below. And the next one is Cold Heart. Now, I also talked about the nerf with this. I talked about it when it first came out, and I called it a meme legendary, not realizing that it didn't scale with mastery yet, so it would have been fucking insane if it stayed the way it is, but it's not staying the way it is. It got nerfed pretty heavily. I did talk about that as well, so it kind of sucks that it got nerfed heavily, but now it's in a reasonable spot instead of a OP broken legendary, especially what it would have been in PvP. It would have been insane. Now it's actually reasonable, and it still does an insane amount of single target damage. Not useful in AoE situations. It just fucking isn't. You would probably want to run bracers in AoE, I would assume. We'll see what happens with that. But Cold Heart does look really cool, and they did make it very viable for Unholy as well. It may look like Unholy DKs will use Cold Heart. It's just such a strong single target legendary. I'm really excited to see what happens with it. It does scale with Frost DKs mastery, which makes it incredibly strong for them. If you're popping, 50% mastery, this thing could be hitting a regular for over 4 mil. With a decent pillar, could hit upwards of 5 mil, crits for 10 mil. That's insane to me. And we'll see what happens with that. You line it up with everything, you'll just be getting insane hits with it. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm really looking forward to how the patch pans out for DKs. My overall opinion on it is it's obviously so much better for Unholy DKs. And I think with all of this stuff, Frost DKs kind of stay where they were at. They actually take a little bit of a hit with the new legendaries coming out. Maybe they kind of stabilize with Cold Heart being promising. But overall, Unholy DKs got the much better end of the stick in these patch notes and in this upcoming patch. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me your opinions down below, and I'll see you guys next time.